Hey guys, Jeremy with Jover here. So today I want to talk about why heel plates or using heels when squatting isn't always needed as a fix for a lack of ankle mobility. So you can imagine this scenario. I see a lot of times when personal trainers or coaches, they're working with an athlete and then they've got them squatting and then straight away they say, put these heel plates under your heels. Or they say, go get some squat shoes like Romaleos or Reebok Legacy Lifters or what have you not. And so from that, straight away, most of the times, there will be a drastic change in their form. It will probably help to fix their butt wing, it will probably allow them to hit depth a lot better, it'll probably allow them to sit in a much better position. But then the curious thing is, I see a lot of these athletes warm up without the use of heel plates or heels, and when they're doing these bodyweight squats, they're hitting an Asian squat position. They've got a lot of ankle mobility and they've got a lot of knee travel. Where then straight away when they go into a barbell position, like with a high bar or low bar squat or whatnot, then that changes. So what I'm proposing here today is that it's not always that heel plates or using heels when squatting isn't always a needed fix, and it's not a lack of ankle mobility that's the issue with these athletes, but it's rather a case of a lack of ankle and knee travel, a lack of knee activation, a lack of ankle activation, a lack of cueing the athlete to actively throw the knees forward, to let the knees travel, to not cut off, to not restrict the knee travel. That's what's causing the lack of perceived ankle mobility. And so one of the key reasons why when an athlete performs a squat, they cut off their knees early is because of how we squat in an everyday position, in everyday life. When we move around in everyday life and when we go to sit down in a chair or sit down on the toilet, that's essentially mimicking the squat position. But however, every time we do those movements, we're moving our hips back. We don't need a lot of knee travel there because the goal or the area that the athlete is trying to squat onto is behind them. Like this is the analogy, like it's similarly like box squats. When you're doing box squats, a lot of the times the athlete is actively trying to sit back into that position because that box or that bench is behind us. And so when we come over to a free squat where there isn't a box or there isn't an area, a target area behind us, and we're just trying to go straight down, that's actually very different, and the movement pattern there, where a lot more knee travel is required, that's definitely going to change in comparison to like an everyday squat or box squat, where you're trying to actively sit back with the hips. So when we take on this side view, this side-on view, and I'll perform a few squat variations for you guys, hopefully you can see that there's a very significant difference in the amount of knee travel that occurs during my squats. So you'll see that, for example, in this low bar squat, if I'm very hip dominant and I don't think about knee travel at all, and I initiate the movement by pushing my hips back, I continue to push my hips back as I come down, you'll see that my knees, they barely travel over my toes. But if I cue myself my initial break to let my knees and hips break simultaneously and allow my knees to travel forward, you'll see that then my knees end up in that bottom position, end up much further over my toes. Now if I switch to a high bar position, if I don't cue my knees to travel at all, and I'm sitting back as I hit that hole, you'll see that my knees end up very much, they don't travel as much. But if I do the opposite, and I let my initial break occur at the knees, and I let my knees travel forward as you need to within a high bar squat, you'll see that I hit depth a lot better. I sink into a much deeper position, and my knees have traveled significantly further than compared to the previous situation. Now, if I apply this to a bodyweight sense, if I think hips back, if I'm trying to sit back onto a box, you'll see that my knees have cut off. But if I do the opposite and I shoot my knees forward from that initial break and I let my knees travel to maintain my upright torso, you'll see that my knees have traveled significantly further than my toes. So to sum up, what I'm trying to say here in today's video is that when you see an athlete squatting and they're struggling to hit depth, or it appears that there's a lack of knee travel and it appears that they don't have the ankle mobility needed or the hip mobility needed to perform the squat, to maintain a flat back, to perform the squat in with very good form, slapping heel plates under the athlete, yes, it is a fix, but a lot of the times it's not always needed, because a lot of the times it actually depends on our squat mechanics, how we initiate the initial break, whether it's knee dominant or hip dominant, the amount of knee travel we allow for during our squat, how we mentally cue ourselves to perform the squat. That's what dictates the amount of knee travel you get during the squat. So the main takeaway from this video is that the next time you're coaching an athlete or you're working with someone in the gym with their squats, if it appears that try the bodyweight squat. Let them perform a bodyweight squat first and cue them to travel, let their knees travel. And from that, straight away, most of the time, you'll be able to see whether they actually have an ankle mobility problem or not. Because a lot of the time, these lifters, they'll perform a squat with their barbell on their backs and they cut off their knee travel. They don't let their knees travel. And so it gives you the perception that ankle mobility work is needed. But then if you put them into a bodyweight squat position where there's no pressure, there's no fear of having to perform the movement or get crushed under the bar, and you just you give them confidence in the lift. Because with the bodyweight squat, there's no weight on their back, they can play around with their form, they can play around with their knee travel confidently. And so with that confidence, they can try these new things like actively cue knees forward. And then once they see from that it is a more advantageous position or it feels better for them, then they can have that carry over onto a barbell squat. So basically, to sum up today's video, next time you're coaching or working with the athlete, before you immediately use heel plates or heels to treat a problem that you think the athlete has, take a look at their mechanics first. Take a look at their squat movement, how they're squatting, the initial break, etc., the amount of knee travel they're cueing, and because a lot of the times that will be a much better long-term fix than to use an accessory like a heel plates, because when you introduce these variables, yes, they are a good fix, but a lot of the times they're not needed for the lifter. So that's all from me today, guys. Hopefully that was helpful for you, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.